So today I'm going to introduce an idea for developing the quality score on audit quality by using the AQI. This AQI is provided by the PCAOB, and okay. So the introduction for this is that from previous literature, we have many proxies for audit quality measurement, but they do not have a guidance for choosing among these proxies. So we have the proxies such as the audit fee, audit firm size, audit Big Four versus non-Big Four, and the location for the audit firms. But the audit quality background story is that we have discussed from our previous class the tension between the audit firms and the audit clients. So the shareholders rely on the audit firms to provide credible auditing process in order to monitor the company's financial statement disclosure and make sure their investments are well used. However, the audit firms are employed by the managers from their audit clients, which means if audit firms put much pressure on their audit clients, they may be fired. Similarly, if auditors provide going concerns to their audit clients, they increase the probability for audit clients' companies to get bankruptcy. If companies receive going concerns, they are highly likely to fire the auditors. So although the audit firms need to take care of their reputation for investors, audit firms also need to balance how rigorous their auditing process for their audit clients. Thus, the tension between the reputation and the dismissed by the audit clients influences the audit quality. So PCAOB provides 28 audit quality indicators, but there's pros and cons for the AQI. So the pros is the investors can have a guideline on how to evaluate the audit quality. However, the cons is too many dimensions of the AQI's measures. So the purpose of this paper is to develop general audit quality scores like credit scores or the corporate credit ratings and further test the validation for the scores. So for the FICO score credit, for the FICO credit score that we are very familiar with this picture, and how they calculate is the FICO score are calculated using many different pieces of the credit data in the credit report. So there are 5 big categories. The first one is history. This is the 35%. So they will see whether you have paid the past credit amount on time, and this is the most important factor in a FICO score. So the second one is the 30% the amount owed. So if you're using a lot of your available credits, this may indicate that you are overextended, and the banks can interrupt this to mean that you are at a higher risk of default. And 15% is the length of the credit history. So in general, a longer credit history will increase your FICO score. And we also have the 10% for credit mixed and the 10% for new credit. So this is how they calculate the FICO score. And we also have the corporate credit ratings. So there's 3 biggest credit ratings. They are Moody's, S&P, and Fitch. So a corporate credit ratings is an opinion of an independent agency regarding the likelihood that a company will fully meet its financial obligations as they come due. So in general, the analysis will focus on 2 broad areas. So first one is the business risk and their financial risk. So investors can easily find out the upper side is for worth investment companies, and the bond is not worth investment, so which they call is junk. So from the PCAOB, we have the audit quality indicators. We have the three main areas, and they are come up with the 28 indicators. So they are audit professionals, audit process, and audit result. So For the first area, audit professionals, we have 12 indicators. The first one is availability, so which we are very focused on the literature. They are leveraged, and the partner workload is included in the availability. And the competence is the experience of audit personnel and the training hours for per auditors. And we also have the focus. This is also another very important is the audit hours and the audit and the risk areas. So for the second area, we have audit process. So this include the tone at the top and leadership. And we also have the incentives, which is the audit fees, effort, and the client risk. And we also have the independence, infrastructure, and the monitoring. For the third area is the audit result. So which we are very familiar with is the financial statement. So we have the frequency and the impact of financial statement restatements and for the arrows. And we also have internal controls, and for going concern is the timely reporting of going concern issues. And so we also have the communications between auditors and audit committee, and the final, the enforcement and litigation. So they all come up with the 28 indicators. So I'm proposing for each indicator has 10 credit scores. So the total 28 indicators have the 280 scores. And first, we need to decide on enough amount of cases and then introduce machine learning models to generate scores for future cases. Although how to decide each indicator scores from 0 to 10 is subjective, we can test the significant credibility of the AQI score by using the logistic regression models. So I'm proposing two logistic regression models, which they come from the previous literature. So the first model is using the common letter. So the beta 1 AQI score is what I am interested in, and they are measured in firm I on time t, and then the common letter is the firm I on t plus 1. So the dependent variable is also the indicator variable. This means the likelihood of receiving common letters. So one is if a company has received a common letter related to its 10K filing from the SEC and 0 otherwise. And the second model is the restatement. So beta 1 is also the I'm interested variable, and the dependent variable is also the indicator variable with a value of 1 for firms that restate their annual financial statement, and 0 for control firms that did not restate their financial statement. So the data we can get the data from for the common letter. For the common letter, we can get the data from audit analytics. And for the restatement, we can get the data from the USGAO report. So overall, the main purpose for this research idea is to see how to generate a AQI score based on the PCAOB's AQI indicators, and to test whether the AQI score can really reduce the likelihood of common letter and the restatement. So thank you. Is there any question?
I think this is very interesting idea. I don't like very much call it a credit score, but a scoring scheme I liked a lot. Abby, you have been working on this area of quality. What do you think?
Actually, I was going to comment that. So you guys remember that on the first day of this class, I sent our working paper about audit quality, right? I used machine learning to predict actually the restatement. But now the paper has been revised, and we actually focus on AQI. So And we also, we use machine learning to compress the AQIs into a score. So it's very similar to what you are proposing here. But the issue is that, so AQI, currently there are 28 AQIs, but we cannot obtain data for most of the AQIs. So if you go back to your list, only the financial statements result, like restatement, fraud, internal control, going concern, you can get the data from public source. Other data can only be collected from audit firms, and only PCAOB has the data. And beyond that, PCAOB may not have all the data. So there is a data issue. So our research just utilized the publicly available audit-related variables.
Abby, is it possible to have some proxies to exogenous variables that are not the traditional variables? I haven't thought about it, just wondering.
It's possible, but I wonder, let's say if you want to capture, if you go to the previous slide, the audit profession, like where you have the hours.
Hours, let me see.
Yeah, the first one. This one, yeah. So it's hard to capture like individual level of let's say experience or hours. So that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that PCAOB doesn't know whether the 28 AQIs are good. They actually want the professionals to provide theoretical backup for their choice of AQI. So in my research, I just utilized publicly available data and run the machine learning as you guys already saw in the paper, but now we revised a lot. So I can send you the latest version. And then we basically selected the most predictive variables, right? So we think that these can be like a backup for PCAOB's choice of the variables. And we also compress the variables into one value. And we also validated it. And it seems that the auditing engagements that will actually have restatement receive the score significantly higher than engagements that don't have restatement. So I can send you the
You know, Abby, I never liked just restatement as the outcome variable, because there are so many things that are in the scale before a restatement happens. And some restatements, you know, there was a time that a lot of restatements were basically because the accounting standards changed and you had to comply retroactively with standards. So I would like to see studies of this type that take a kind of different of outcome variable. You heard me talking about trying to talk with the CPA firm and getting their adjustments and use that in the variable and things like that as a variable. But I really like the idea of coming up with, I don't call it a credit index, but something like an index, meaning there are many of these things. You can go into social media and see when people change jobs, and they were in Deloitte and they left Deloitte. That's personnel turnover. And there are some very unorthodox ways to measure some of these things. I think there is a very unorthodox paper to be written.
Yeah, so I think that currently we rely on restatement. It's really due to the limitation of data, right? Because besides the statement that is widely available, what other can we? There's really no better data that we can obtain. And plus, if we can have some internal data, the sample is not big. So there are like trade-offs between like the data versus the generalizability. But I'm really glad that Wenqi has this idea, because it kind of illustrates, okay, my idea is not like, it's like if you have similar ideas, it's like it illustrates it's correct, right?
I just want to say one one thing to Wenqi, don't give up on this, and you don't really necessarily have to be with the items that the PCAOB declare as audit quality. You can come up with other proxies. So meaning sometimes you have to cook with the ingredients that you have. And maybe looking at big data, you'll find some ingredients that they never considered, because the way the PCAOB inspects is going into the audits, into the firm, and examining. But some of these things, like how long an auditor has been in engagement and how the turnover of auditor, is a big example of, you can go to LinkedIn and see congratulations for Joe Blow leaving PwC. Okay, and you can go into some tweets and find some information. So I think it's very nice to tie up to the PCAOB,